The story of the future animator began on December 5th, far away 1901, when the fourth of 5 children, Walter Elias, was born into the family of an ordinary carpenter and a teacher from Chicago. Little Walt's childhood did not resemble one of his wonderful fairy tales. At the beginning of the 20th century, crime reigned in Chicago. The Disneys couldn't decide to move, but the last straw was the murder of a policeman on a nearby street. So 4-year-old Walt finds himself in Marceline, Missouri, where his father's brother lived. There the family buys a small farm. Little Walt had no paper or pencil then, but he wanted to draw so badly. The boy finds tar and a stick and draws a house. Already at the age of 8, his father forced young Walt to work, to deliver letters and advertisements for his firm. His father took all the money, but Walt did not complain. Secretly from his strict chief, he took twice as much work, and in his stomped boots ran around town to deliver the mail on time and earn pocket money. 2 years later, the boy's father fell ill with typhoid fever. Elliot's wife pressed pieces of orange to his lips so that a few drops would get into the man's mouth. Soon the father recovered, and the Disney family left again in search of a better life. This time they chose Kansas City. There was a beautiful mansion in the city with a lush garden and a high fence. Young Walter longed to get inside that fairy tale castle, to walk through its tall, deserted rooms, to admire the old paintings. His imagination drew the boy unearthly riches, but all his attempts to penetrate the private grounds ended in failure. Then the boy vowed that one day he would surely build a huge house with entertainment for children and a picturesque garden to play in. Thus was born a cherished dream, which was destined to come true 40 years later in the form of Disneyland. As a child, Walt Disney, like his parents, teachers, and friends, thought he should become an actor. Together with his best friend, they copied Charlie Chaplin's funny gait and spent all their pocket money on movies. When Walt was rejected for military service in 1918 because he was underage, he enlisted in the Red Cross, where, once overseas, he worked for a year as an ambulance driver. But even there, far from home, the creative young man managed to stand out. Everyone knew his ambulance, of course they did. From the top to the wheels, Walt painted it with fanciful drawings. On his return, Walt enrolls at the Art Institute of Chicago, but dreams of breaking free of its chains and finally working on his own. After his unsuccessful search for a job as an artist, Disney became interested in animation, and then he suddenly decides to leave his native Kansas. With a few drawings ready to cartoon and $40 in his pocket, Wacko goes to Hollywood. And it really is. Disappointed in the acting profession, Walt was given an extra role, and then the episode was removed from the film. Disney rents a garage from his uncle and uses the borrowed money to buy everything he needs to create cartoons. The man takes his brother Roy as a partner. This is how they create Disney Brothers Studios. From morning till night, Walt worked in the garage, so all everyday problems, cooking dinner for example, were solved by Roy. Walt wasn't usually fussy about food, but once, when he couldn't stand the disgusting taste of the stew served to him, he gave the bewildered Roy a loud scandal. That's when both of them began to think seriously about marriage. Pretty soon, Roy's young wife was selflessly cooking the men's lunches, and Walt's lovelorn assistant and future soulmate, Lillian Bounds, was easily giving up the money she earned for the good of the studio. The first Disney Brothers cartoon was about the girl Alice, Walt Disney's favorite character from Alice in Wonderland. Movies with this character were released for 4 years. October 16, 1923, the brothers signed a contract with a distributor from New York, Margaret Winkler. This day is considered the date of the founding of the Walt Disney Company. Soon, Disney came up with a new star for his cartoons, Oswald the Rabbit. But when he noticed that Winkler had poached all the artists to her side, it was very late. A new season of the cartoon was about to be released without the author's participation. According to the agreement, all rights now belonged to Margaret. After a bitter defeat, Disney came up with a new star character, Mickey Mouse. True, at first the mouse was to be called Mortimer Mouse, but Lillian asked her husband to change the name to Mickey. You won't believe it, but the first 2 cartoons with this character failed to sell. The cinemas at the time already had sound, and the Disney pictures were silent. Walt takes on the voice of his work and, oh, the miracle, to him comes success. The third cartoon with the funny mouse was released November 18th, 1928. This day was the beginning of the era of Mickey Mouse. Very soon, Disney receives the first Oscar for the series of cartoons, Meaningless Symphonies. Do you want to continue the video? Get 10 likes, and the second part of this video will be released.